Hello, everyone, and welcome back to USTA Florida's Here to Serve podcast. My name is Laura Bowen, and I'm the Executive Director at USTA Florida. We're here today in beautiful Palm Beach Gardens at the Palm Beach Gardens Tennis and Pickleball Center for one of our first ever advocacy workshops. In this episode of the podcast, you'll hear from local elected leaders and managers of facilities on how they work together to advocate for best-in-class facilities across the state and how you can get involved as a local advocate. Enjoy this episode of the pod, and for more information, visit ustaflorida.com/advocacy. Hi, everyone. Hi. Welcome. I am so excited that today we get to have a panel of legitimate superstars here to talk about how you can effectively work with your city leaders. So we talked a little bit about this morning, but today we're going to hear directly from city leaders and others who work in the public space about how they effectively work together. So I'm going to introduce each of our panelists here to you very briefly, but then they're going to tell you in my first question why they do what they do and what they do. So to introduce our panel, we have our fearless leader, our president of USTA Florida, Mr. Chuck Gill, who wears multiple hats. And he also is the director of tennis for the Village of Wellington. Next to Chuck is Wendy Tatum. Wendy is our wonderful host today. All right, give Wendy a round of applause. Wendy actually directs this lovely center we have here, which, if you've had a chance to look at, has grown tremendously under Wendy's guidance and leadership. She has a wonderful team here. She has a wonderful city, and she's going to talk a little bit about that today and how she makes that magic happen. Next to Wendy is Lisa Pugliese-Lacroix. Lisa, as many of you know, is the founder of Love Serving Autism, and she is joining us today with her board, who is here today to meet. So thank you, Lisa, for being here. In front of Lisa is the fearless Dana Andrews. As she mentioned earlier, Dana is a past president of USTA Florida. She also is on the USTA nominating committee, and she is the leader of our advocacy advisory team and the chair of our public parks committee. Sitting behind Dana, trying to hide back there, are you vice mayor, is Tanya Siskin, who is the vice mayor for the Village of Wellington. So we had to separate her and Chuck just so. And of course, in front of Tanya, next to Dana is Miss Chelsea Reed. She is a council member here for the city of Palm Beach Gardens, and we're so grateful that you've hosted us today and that you support tennis the way you do here. Thank you. And of course, not least, but the anchor of this team that we have put together is Mr. Jim Barnes, who is, yes, he is the village manager for the Village of Wellington. So thank you all, outstanding panelists, for being here today. My first question to all of you is that everyone on this panel in some way, shape, or form has chosen to work in the public sector. I'd like to ask each of you to share why serving the public good matters to you and what inspires you to show up even when it's hard. And I'll start with you, Chuck.
Okay. Well, this is easy for me because I've been in tennis for 40 years and I was always in the private club business or resort business. And when the opportunity came to actually manage a public tennis center in my hometown, I thought, this is the greatest way I could end my career possible, because I grew up on high school courts and, public tennis centers and parks. That's the way I learned to play tennis. So I am not a country club kid. I navigated that space fairly well for a number of years, but I grew up riding my bike to high school courts, hitting with people, getting lessons from coaches. So when the opportunity came up to work at a really highly functioning public tennis center, it was just a no-brainer. And that's what kind of gets me juiced up every day. I still am a coach, and I still like being out on the courts, and I like being around people, and I like being around the public tennis center vibe. So it's been fun.
Awesome. Wendy, how about you?
For me, I think the journey was a little different. I worked in the commercial end of it for Hyatt Resorts for many years. Took a little bit of hiatus and had a couple of children, and 25 years later go back to work. But when my kids tennis started for me when my kids were in elementary school, and I actually had a couple hours to myself. I'm like, well, I was a golfer by trade, but I'm like, I don't have 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever the golf takes. So one of my friends said, well, come join us in tennis. And I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And so it was actually here, the first club I played league at, and you just made so many friends. And to this day, I have so many friends from that. And then 25 years later, I'm looking for a job, and this happened to open up. And I thought, I don't know if I can do this. I have no idea how to do this, but I've done it, and I enjoy every day, because every day is different. As you know, that everybody in the tennis world, every day is so different. No day is the same. I am not a teaching pro, but I have beautiful and lovely and awesome teaching pros we have that have been with us 10, 15 years. They make a great living here. And one of my first lessons was one of the pros that's still here that came back looking for a job when I was working here. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're coming back. so anyway, it's just the community. I mean, you're just serving the community, the inclusiveness of allowing anybody that walks through the door. Being a public facility, come on in. We've got something for you. So I think that's what keeps us coming back, or me coming back.
Lisa, how about you?
All right. So I grew up in tennis more as on the playing side back in the day, right, Tracy? Okay. And so I started this organization really because I wanted to use tennis as a therapeutic tool to help children and adults with autism and developmental disabilities. And I've had this opportunity to start a nonprofit, and which I knew very little about initially, but I've learned through the years through amazing mentors and leaders. So what motivates me every day is really just knowing that tennis is a therapeutic tool, and I'm no longer focusing on the competitive aspect of tennis, but more so how to use it to benefit others in our community. So I think that's what motivates me every day.
And Lisa's being humble. She's the #1 college player in the nation. When she played at UF, she could have gone a lot of different paths, and the fact that you chose to give back to the public good in the way that you do is very admirable, and it inspires me. So thank you. Dana.
Well, I think you're going to hear a common theme that a lot of us grew up playing on public courts. My dad did, I did, my daughter did. And I think for me, every day, we talk about tennis for all. Okay, what does that really mean? It means the public facilities. We need to support them. We need to love them. We need to nourish them. And in terms of why I do it every day, that is my passion. I truly believe, like I said, I'm a tennis nerd. We know this is a sport for a lifetime. We know all the gifts it gives. I mean, to girls, the confidence. It teaches how to lose gracefully. It teaches how to win gracefully. Discipline, organization. And if I can be a part of making it available to so many different people, whether it be from the girls' camps to the HBCUs, to just supporting a local director of tennis, giving Margot a hug, telling her great job on those summer camps, then I'm doing my job.
Okay, so for me, in local government, what inspires me to do what I do, I don't know if I think it kind of found me. I wasn't seeking out the position, but I was big in advocacy, with the PTA when my kids were little. And it's kind of sent me down this path to council. I've been on the council for 9 years, and I guess what inspires me is just wanting to pay back to the community and make the community a better place. We have a lot of great things going on in Wellington, and I want to see them thrive and make them better, and just serve the community that I live in.
Hey, everybody. So I'm a lifelong local. Actually, we were teasing earlier that the house I grew up in, you can kind of see from here. Uh, but nonetheless, wound up in running for office because the park just behind you, a city council member voted against it. And I heard about that and thought, well, who would vote against a park? And so I ran against an incumbent and was not slated to win and did so because of listening to the community.
Woohoo.
And thank
Yeah.
you. And but luckily, our community loves recreation. I think it's impossible to be a real Floridian, whether you're new here or lifelong, and not love recreating, right? In any way, shape, or form. As far as what keeps me going today, having you here in our facility, yesterday with Love Serving Autism, they say for most humans, for every bad experience you have, you need 4 good ones to kind of even it out. So I will come here for my doses of good. And so we have to thank our amazing city and programming, especially Wendy, for bringing everyone here.
Okay, I guess I'll wrap it up here with everything since we're standing between you guys and lunch. Generally speaking, I feel kind of left out. I haven't swung a tennis racket in over 30 years, so
We
you
can
know.
fix that.
I know,
We-
no,
we
we're
can
good,
fix
we're good,
that,
we're good.
Jim.
But I do have an unfair advantage because I was a Parks and Rec director prior to my current role, and I kind of see public service as even better than the medical profession. Their first stop is generally first do no harm. Our first stop is we're going to leave any place better than we found it.
Oh.
And I think that's really the key thing with the public sector, government, and especially municipal level, because we're the closest to the people. You know, forget getting doged by the state or getting doged by the federal government. We are the government that's closest to the people, and we affect change best because we are closest to the people. And what kind of keeps us coming back, I'll speak for everybody here, but especially for myself, is that seeing the change. And this one I'll make tennis specific rather than just public sector. It's, you know, you might have an older adult that's playing that this is their one time to really socialize because otherwise they don't have a social, you know, connection with anybody else. Or the look on that kid's face the first time they ever hit a serve and it gets in and they start a lifelong career of playing tennis, even if it's recreationally. So the recreation component is important because we're not just providing programs or facilities, we're actually impacting individuals at the lowest level possible, which is their personal lives. So.
Well, hang on to that microphone, Jim, because my next question is actually for you, Tanya and Chelsea. As city leaders, you have the challenge of serving the broader community. How do you make choices in recreational priorities, and what role does the citizen advocate play in your decisions?
Can I defer to both of them
Yes,
to go
you
first?
can.
I'll give you the staff perspective after, but I'd
Okay.
like to hear from the elected officials first.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Go backwards.
they can go ahead
Okay.
and rock, paper, scissors.
So this is a tough one, right? So we're elected because it's a representational democracy in this country, which means, you know, 5 voices for the 62,000+ people who live here, and the hundreds of thousands that will come through our city. So what we do is not always popular, but what I will say is that, again, if you listen and collaborate, you will be lucky to do a good job because you're validating people and what they need. Our city also backs it up with data. We do a survey every 3 years. It is a random survey, and we hire a company so that there's no skewing, because of course if it was me, I would, be like, recreation. But luckily, the residents here, 93% of them want recreation. That's like their number one thing. A minimum of 20% of our residents a year come here to this one facility. So that's just from the survey, and that's equal to golf. So that's pretty exceptional because we do have a lot of golfers. So providing a proper public service is never easy. The chance of making 62,000 people all happy is minimal. But what I will say is advocacy is everything. A few years ago, just before COVID, pickleball, we didn't have a lot of pickleball here. We had some. Boy, were the pickleball people advocates, we'll call it that, right? And now we have, I think we're up to like 32 courts in the city or something like that in just a matter of years. 34, sorry, okay, Wendy's gonna know that better than I will always. But nonetheless, that is listening. So if I were you guys, I would want a takeaway today. Like, it's nice to hear our stories. So what I will tell you is the takeaway is gratitude. So if you're interacting with your city leaders, whether it's your city council, city manager, staff at a recreation facility, tell them thank you. Go to the meetings. They
Yes.
only happen once a month. And don't just come and ask for more. Tell us a story. Tell us a story about why it succeeded. If you can't physically get people, like I would love for Lisa's kids to come to our city council meeting. They're not going to make it on a Thursday at 6 p.m., right? But email us a video. Let us know what's actually happening, because we want proof in the pudding that this is making a difference every day. And if you don't show it to us, it won't be fresh of mind. And that's not anyone's fault, but it is something that's easily fixable. So my challenge to all of you guys right now is, wherever you live, whoever your city council is, whatever the municipal government providing public services are, give them a story in the next quarter. And then call me. I'll give you my cell phone number. I want to know if it works, because I really do think it matters.
And we're going to talk a little bit about this. I'm so glad you pointed that out when we go through communication earlier. But I think one of the things we've gotten wrong in the last 5 years, and I'll say this, is that we focus too much on providing an easier format of play. Tennis is a beautiful sport. It's easy to learn. Lisa is a testament to that, right? We have everybody and anybody out there. What we didn't do is show up. So thank you for saying that from an elected leader perspective. Is if we're in this room and we're talking about the great impact we have and the great stories, but we're never showing up and sharing those stories and saying, look at all the tennis players we have, look at the growth, showing the data, telling the stories. That's the lesson out of the growth of pickleball, that they did exceptionally well. It's not that we don't have an easy game to learn. I'm probably proof of that. So thank you for saying that, Ms. Reed. Vice Mayor Siskin, what would you add to that?
So, well, for Wellington, Parks and Rec is a huge priority. We're very well known for our schools, our A-rated schools, and I think it's all about balance. You can't have one without the other. We need to have top-notch facilities. That our residents expect that. So I think the question was, how do you prioritize it?
Yeah, how do you balance that?
Yeah, it's very high priority in Wellington, and I think the voices of the community are super important when making decisions or votes up there. Like we just are going through a tennis center expansion right now, and it's very important that people get out and be vocal about wanting that. And the education from USTA is super important. Also, part of that, because not everybody always comes out to say good things. They're usually, you get the antis in the room, anti everything. So the happy people are at home, making dinner or taking their kids to soccer. So it's always good, and I always put a big emphasis on the listening to the community. At the end of the day, I have one vote. You can't make everybody happy, but these are the good, happy votes that we get to talk about and take. And our tennis center is amazing, and our director's fantastic. You all know Chuck. So, and we have a great village manager as well. And our council works very hard to keep that balance and make sure we have, what we need in the community to make our residents happy.
Well, that makes it easy for me, because basically they said it best. Balance is key to trying to prioritize and figure out really what are we going to do. I mean, I know this is going to be a surprise for everybody in the room. There are other programs we do besides tennis. Okay, I know that's a big surprise, and we have to balance that.
Yeah.
And not every day tennis moves up to the top. We do have to listen to some other programs, other needs in the community, not even all recreation, which is disappointing to a lot of people. But I think the key is having people show up so that your ladies team tennis league participants don't just show up when there's a complaint because the pro shop smells, or there's a problem in the locker room, or your lines aren't tight, or your nets aren't balanced, or aren't even, or anything like that. But they show up when things are great, which is going to be 99% of the time, because elected officials need to hear that. They need to hear that positive reinforcement. It doesn't help. I think Wendy and Chuck would like to hear some positive reinforcement too. So I think balance is important. Ladies team tennis for sure. Yeah, I didn't use that example because I don't know about it. And then the other thing, I mean, that was the basis for us to measure the success of tennis. If we got no complaints from ladies team tennis, we were good. But basically, and then as far as how to deal with citizen advocates and what's the value, there's a great value. And I'm not saying all advocates are good, but we have to listen to all of them. We had some advocates that were advocating against us building our new tennis center. We listened. They felt listened to. And I'm going to tell you, the lady's husband was the first person that showed up on opening day to make sure they got their court and they were there for the ribbon cutting.
Nice.
Okay,
That's a
so
great
so they
story.
come around eventually, even though they sung Joni Mitchell, "Paving Paradise," and all that stuff at the decision to actually move the court. So I think it's balance and making sure the right people show up. We want to hear all the stories, but we want to especially hear good stories.
Awesome. That's a great segue to Chuck and Wendy. Actually, my next question really is for you two. You both are Rackets facilities directors, and I say Rackets intentionally. You both have facilities that currently and in the future will serve other racket sports. How do you work with your city staff like Jim and other elected leaders like Chelsea and Tanya to help them invest in best-in-class facilities? And maybe when a city doesn't have a Wendy or a Chuck in the place, where can they go to get help and guidance?
Well, I think I would say to those looking to, go to their city council, you have something you need or would want, or I say first do your research, show them what you have isn't enough and why it isn't enough. So don't go and say, I need this. Like if you have empty courts and I go to my city manager and council and I say, I need 10 more courts, they're going to go, really? And also what I want to say on that is half of your city council may have never come to your tennis center. They don't know what you do, right? So they're busy. They're not going to when I first started here, somebody that was a city manager actually drove by, and it was in our little 1,200 square foot tennis center, and he said, your parking lot is full. And I'm like, yes. And he goes, and you're feeding people, you're bringing food in, and there's all these high-end cars out here, Bentleys, and I'm like, yeah. He had never been to the tennis facility before, and I thought, wow. So yeah, that's what we do every day, but sometimes they just don't know. But if you're going to go and you're going to ask for things, like Chelsea knows, I keep oh, I could use couple more courts. We've kind of courted out, but I do have one more out there. But and 27. And
We'll be here for the ribbon.
Yeah. But actually, she is my best advocate. So she and the city manager Ron Ferris are they've been so easy to work with. He was a recreation director back in the day down in the South, and he'll always say, oh, I know all about that, and he does. And so when I ask, I go with the proof, right? You go with the proof. I do graphs. This time, how many courts? This time, how many court reservations were turned away? How busy we are in the evening with the light leagues, and you go with that, and it's you're serving the community that he's supposed to be, that they are all serving too, that they're talking for. And so if you go the proof that the community really needs this and is asking for it, and you have it to back it up, it's hard for them to say no. And if they do say no, they'll give you a great reason why. I mean, you will get a no or two. I mean, I keep asking and get no's, but I get a lot of yeses. but you have backup, right? So and you have people that know what you do and how you do it. So I think it's really important for those looking, and Chuck will say the same thing, because I think and ladies team, we try to keep going down a team every year because we have too many. But
we didn't say that. We love our ladies teams.
Send them to me, Wendy.
Yeah.
well, we're trying to make more room for our members. Let's put it that way. No, I'm kidding. But ladies team, we have a lot of ladies teams. So I'll end with that one.
So Chuck, can you talk a little bit about how you work with Tanya and your city staff, but also what does the city do when they don't have a Wendy or you?
I think to the first part, how I work with them, I think there are really a couple of things that are key to me. One is communicate really often. And what's the saying? For the people that don't know about it, it may as well not have happened. So one thing that we've been pretty mindful of is when we have an event and we have a national family championship, or when we have a big outing for the ladies teams and a party, I try to make sure we invite them. I try to make sure you at least all, whether it's for me reporting back at a staff meeting or director's meeting, or whether me inviting, just making sure people are there. I want to make sure they're visible. I mean, to me, that's that's really one of the big things, is just constant communication to make sure that everybody knows what you're doing, because otherwise they just don't know. I mean, they're really busy, and running the Village of Wellington, just Parks and Rec, the different components of Parks and Recreation are huge, let alone all the things that Mr. Barnes has to do with the village. I think the other thing that's very helpful is try to build trust. Try to really build trust so that they know that you have their best interests and you have the village residents' best interests in mind. I mean, when I can show a revenue spike, a revenue increase pretty much consistently every year, they don't really have to question whether or not the usage is there. I mean, we're basically having more people play there year after year after year. So, facts don't lie. And I think it's really important that you build trust so that they know you're running that part of the village responsibly, and yes, you might be spending more money in some areas, but it's for the greater good, and there's a reason for it. What to do if you don't have a Wendy or a Chuck? I think one thing that every city can do, whether or not it's your local rackets director, or whether or not it's people in the on the council or Parks and Rec department, is build that network. Make sure that if you don't know it, somebody that does. I mean, I certainly did that. I'm not ashamed to say, when I took the job at the Village of Wellington, Wendy, what was I calling you? Like once every couple of weeks about something? And I was calling our local Parks and Rec person who works for the Village of Wellington. I was calling Eric pretty much felt like every couple of days. But build your network, find people that are out there that have been doing it, that know a little bit more about it, and don't be ashamed to ask, because one thing I've learned through tennis is that we're a pretty giving group, and if you don't know exactly, if you don't know the answer to a question, you can probably find a peer, and you'll find someone that does.
And you can also call us, and we will connect you with a Wendy or a Chuck or someone else who
and
does
I
it.
totally take for granted sometimes USTA Florida, because I've been a volunteer for so long, but I always know that that's my go-to group for just about anything with programming and grants and facilities, and I can always get an answer from them.
I have a follow-up question, which any of you are welcome to answer. You talked a little bit about the ladies' leagues. We will leave them aside and leave them loved over there for now. Yeah, I noticed. We're not going to talk about that one anymore. But when there's a disconnect in what your members want, right, and maybe what's best for the community, so you can define what members means. How do you navigate that? Do you have any maybe learnings from where that didn't go well, and you would have done it differently, or where it did go well?
I can take that one, because we had. We're always changing things. We're trying to do new things. And in the process of changing and making it better, people don't adapt easily to change. And I can think of just in Wellington, when we converted to a computerized reservation system for the courts. I mean, I can tell you,
Jim's already laughing when you said that.
I mean, I even warned everybody that it was going to be a challenge at first, because candidly, we had people that were used to. We had the system where you called 7:30 and you're at a court, and then at 7:25 you see the caller ID and the phone's blowing off the hook, and you're trying to get people on the court. But we knew that it was going to be good in the long run, but we knew it was going to have some short-term pain points. But stick to what you know is right. Front face it a lot. Don't hide behind. I was in the office once, and one of our desk people said, "Chuck doesn't want you playing more than an hour and a half." Swear to God. And I immediately got out to the office. I said, first of all, let's clarify something. Chuck wants you to play 12 hours a day. He wants you to play as long as you want. What Chuck doesn't really like, and here I am, I'm Chuck. So you don't have to wonder whether or not this was, you don't have to wonder whether or not this, Chuck doesn't think you should play 4 hours before anyone else gets to play once. Now that's fair, but I guess sometimes it just doesn't go the way you think, and the message doesn't get communicated. So I think when you leave the messaging to someone else, you always run the risk of the message not being delivered exactly the way you want it. So I think, when it doesn't go as planned, control the narrative front face it, own it, and say, this is why we're doing this, because it's going to be better. And, you know, imagine that 2 years later, more people are joining with permits than ever because they know that the court reservation system is unequivocally fair. So that would just be one time that it didn't go exactly the
Thank
way.
you. Anybody else have an example they want to share? It's like a hot potato. No? All right, we'll move on. Lisa and Dana. My next question is for you. You both have driven successful advocacy efforts for the nonprofits you have led, Dana with USTA Florida and Lisa with Love Serving Autism. Can you share some of the ways that you have been able to build support and maybe share a key success or a lesson learned so far in your advocacy journey?
Sure, I'll start. That's fine, Dana. Okay. You know, first of all, I'm sitting in a room here with a lot of my favorite advocates for Love Serving Autism. We wouldn't, you know, when you start a nonprofit, you are, you know, you started on your own, and then you have to build strategic partnerships. And I remember Laura sat down with me at Starbucks and you know, yeah, and Laura,
we go there every year almost now.
so our Starbucks visit was like the best meeting of my life, because Laura said, "You're not alone anymore. You know, we're gonna include you as a partner with USTA Florida." And I went home that day and thought, "Oh my gosh, everything's gonna change," because you know, up to that point, you know, it was just kind of, you're on your own. You have this mission and a vision, and then, you know, Chuck and Wendy and the city, the municipalities of, you know, Palm Beach Gardens and Wellington and just these strong advocates have come in and said, how can we help you? So to me, it's all about relationships. Like you said, I wish there were more in the nonprofit world. We're spread pretty thin. So I wish, you know, we had more arms, I guess, to reach out. I mean, I know in Tallahassee, we just received this incredible grant in June from the House and Senate, but I did go to Tallahassee, and you know, you have to really network and advocate for those opportunities. So I guess to me, it's a mix of us advocating as leaders, and also others coming out. Like some of our coaches are here, Margot, I see, and Scott, and some advocates saying, how can we help you with your programming?
I'm glad you used the Tallahassee example, and I really
Yeah.
want to make sure that the group understands this component, is that we also had a recent advocate up in Tallahassee who was able to get $600,000 for school tennis courts. There is money and funding outside of USTA, but it does take time, energy, effort, and relationships. So you may not have those relationships, but people in your network might. You know, and this is the wonderful thing about tennis is it is politically neutral. So taking off of your political affiliations and saying, who am I connected with that has a position of power that would make a decision to help fund this? And I guarantee that in tennis, there are people of all walks of life, all backgrounds, and they know people. So making sure you're leveraging that to your full advantage. And I know you've done that, and you've gone up there and you've asked us for letters. That's another thing that's very, very powerful, is making sure you have people you've worked with that are helping to support you if they can't be there with you. So I love that you shared that example, and we're starting to see others follow that lead. And I know cities can take advantage of FERDAP grants and other things, which require our advocacy to say, hey, get a grant for tennis. So thank you, Lisa, for doing that and for being a great example of that. Tina.
Well, I will say, in terms of coming into USTA Florida and getting a chance, I didn't even realize I was advocating, but they all keep telling me I am. A lot of what you had said about, you know, I'm a lawyer supposedly in this other life. They don't see me very much, but I swear I still am. My name's still up there. When you're a lawyer, a lot of it, when you're presenting a case, it's a lot about storytelling. And I've translated that to my advocacy world. And you know, in my business side, I do have passion about my client. I come prepared and I tell a story. And so I've kind of translated that into my advocacy life. And in terms of my time with USTA Florida, you've heard a lot the word partnership. And I've said it several times today, that our messaging we learned working together is that when we're advocating as a partner. And I think that's very important, that people they don't hear that or they don't perceive that. Now they're really starting to understand. So, for instance, from 2 or 3 years ago down in Vero Beach to my time in front of the Treasure Bay City Council, and I'm up there talking and telling the story of the director of tennis who's been there so long, talking about their community and how we want to make it better. That's what they want to hear. And again, in terms of what we've done so far at USTA Florida, one of my things is, you've heard me say, don't get hung up on the numbers. So just to rattle off a few things, the coaching initiative we did, that Lori, it's now organizational, that when we started that, hearing from Chuck saying, Dana, we've got to get more coaches. So we did start a pilot program. But again, don't get hung up on the numbers. The girls initiative, don't get hung up on the numbers. If we had 5 girls at the first camp, fabulous. So through your advocacy, again, passion, preparation, persistence, tell a story, and truly don't get hung up on the numbers, because when you come with that, it truly will work out. Or if it doesn't work the first go round, they're going to remember you in such a positive way when you're back up in front of the same audience.
Thank you, Dana. Follow up for the group. Anybody can answer this question. How have you all used tools, or even other individuals, your allies and supporters, to advance your advocacy efforts?
Well, I have such a great staff and support in Wellington. Nobody does it alone. I have a very cohesive council that I've worked with. We have 2 new council members, and everything has been really seamless. And so I don't have that challenge like some municipalities. The councils don't get along, and they're at odds. At least the mayor's wife plays tennis. I'm on the D5 team, so there's 2 votes right there. But no, but yeah, it's just draw on the strength of like our village staff. Our manager Chuck is amazing. I have all the tools in the toolbox. So just keeping all of that at my fingertips, it makes me look great and successful. But yeah, we have a great staff and village council.
I will say to your point, though, the challenge is that Tanya and I, for example, are both termed out in March. So I will have been on our city council for 6 years in March. You'll have been on yours for 10 years by then. And so my challenge right now is making sure that the council coming in, because we'll have a couple more seats coming in, fall in love with this as much as I have. And so even yesterday, I was kind of, I don't want to say bullied. That's a bad word. Encouraged.
Strongly encouraged.
Other city council members to show up, and our vice mayor did show up, and I think she's now got the bug, and will continue to do so. But I think it's the continuity when you're dealing with elected officials. So again, I like to give you guys takeaways. Elected officials are great. We love hearing from everybody. Honestly, really, especially in the state of Florida, work with the city managers. Right? We have one here. Your city manager is the CEO of the city. Because of term limits, city council members will come and go. And advocates like me, I will stay here forever. Wendy's never going to get rid of me. I'm still going to hang out, and I'll go to Tallahassee anytime for Love Serving Autism, whatever it is. I'm here as a resident, and that can be a large voice as well, not discounting it. So my encouragement for you would be to get your relationships with the city managers. You've already heard of 2, the one in Palm Beach Gardens and also in Wellington, that came from recreation. So I would also do my due diligence and find out where they came from, and especially pinpointing the ones that have a recreation background, because you've already sold yourselves. So that kind of answers your question, but I think it's something I wanted to bring up a little bit.
And you brought up a great point. The best time to build those relationships is when they're running for office. They're going to be out looking to listen to you, because that's how they get votes and get elected. So be very mindful of when you hear that somebody's running for office. You have 2 seats up. Investigate who those people are that want those seats and start building those relationships. Again, it's not political. It's very much that, this is a time where they want to be out in the community. They want to be meeting with people. Invite them out to your tennis center. It's such a powerful way to build that relationship. And we learned from one of the places that we went to recently that we invited the county school board members. And one of them showed up and said, I had never been here before. And that was amazing because it's a city-run facility. So don't assume that there's connecting points there. Completely agree with city managers. So important.
Yep.
But really, as you go into election cycle, it's coming up in the fall or whenever your city or county elections are, they're not always on the same cycle. So really pay attention to that. And most of them have websites that can tell you that. So thank you both for referencing that. I have one more question, and then we'll leave a little bit of time for audience questions. So my last question is for all of you or any of you. What can USTA Florida and our advocates in this room do better to work with you and support your communities through tennis?
I'll just finish up before I pass this along. I did challenge you guys. You have 1 quarter to show up at a city council meeting or in a meeting with the city manager and tell your story. So I would definitely recommend you do that, and then put a calendar invite to yourself to do it every 6 months.
Awesome. So great takeaway.
Well, thank you for having me and us. This has been great. I think you guys do a great job. And I think just keep the education and awareness going. I didn't know about the app. I didn't know about grants and how to seek those out, things like that. So just more education. I think the tournaments are a wonderful way to highlight what you do, and the father-daughter and the family tournaments is another great way. So just keep on doing all the great work, I'd say. Thanks.
I would just say I think USTA Florida is perfect, but but I would just say continue to support us even through social media to raise awareness about inclusion. I think that's something important.
Yeah, that's great.
One thing I'm not sure if it's come up, but it's on your tables out there that as far as when they talk about a tool in your toolbox, we have an economic impact study that we presented to Tallahassee in December. And so, for instance, just as I love you giving the takeaways, that is so awesome, and hopefully it's gonna, somebody give me your notes of everything she said. But in terms of, for instance, when I went to Treasure Bay to the city council, I brought the economic impact studies with me. And so at the end of my presentation, I said, for your bedtime reading, and I walked and, handed one to each council member. And back to your city manager point, the city manager at Treasure Bay, that was his first day. So you better know that I went up, introduced myself, and he's already emailed myself and Christine about an advocacy project that he has. But, had I not taken the time to go and introduce myself, that connection may not have been made. So I'm feeling a lot better about that project.
What you guys I think you guys do a terrific job. Obviously, I'm still learning on when you roll stuff out. We just got the resurface grant, so there's so much available, and I'm continue to learn from you. But I think your resources and everything, take advantage of it. If you guys don't know, I've been pushing you out, you all out, and to all clubs that don't know, telling them what's available from just classes, and trying the stuff that Lori and the workshops and everything. She'll call and say, hey, we're trying this out. Would you like to do it? Absolutely. Like, why not? So you guys continue to evolve, and we're trying to hang on with you and do everything. And I think it's a great partnership. So thank you.
I look at both hats I wear. One is a section board member, and the other is a director of rackets for the Village of Wellington. And I just think we need to tell our story as often as we can, whether it's a council meeting or whether it's a ladies team captains meeting. We just need to keep telling the story of how great tennis is, and the health benefits and the social benefits. And sometimes we let the competitive tail wag the participation dog, and we don't really focus on participation and how important it is to have that, because we love tennis, and we just need to make sure the story of how great the sport is gets told often and often. It can't be told enough to anyone that will hear it. So
I'll just add one ask that I have before we get to questions is, if everyone who's currently playing tennis brought one person who's never played, we'd double our numbers next year. That's all it really takes, is bring somebody in, make sure they have a good experience, listen to them when they tell you how they want to play. right? If they just want to do it socially or casually, find those opportunities for them. If the millions of people who play tennis in Florida just did that, find one person who's never played before, bring them onto a court, welcome them, find them an opportunity, and do it for free. That's the key. Do it for free, even if you're paying for their courts, right? Do it for free. I think our growth is unlimited. And Jim's gonna double down on this, right?
I'll slam us home here.
Okay.
Sometimes I have to remind Chuck that I'm in the room. No, that's okay. But no, that's all right. But really, I think, what can USTA do? It's more this.
Yes.
It's the partnership. And, we're fortunate in Wellington. Gardens is fortunate to have Wendy. Not everybody's got a Wendy and Chuck. The partnerships aren't just programs you guys are doing. They're not just facilities that you might try and help kind of give birth to. It's going to the communities and actually showing up. And since not every community has a Wendy or a Chuck, you got to go to them where they are. And it may not be a Gardens racket center. It may not be a Wellington tennis racket center, whatever you might think of. But it starts with one court. It starts with a couple of players, and then you have more, and kind of the old shampoo commercial, and they told two friends, and they told two friends. It's the partnership,
Yeah.
and that's kind of where the magic happens in terms of actually bringing, I hate to say it, but tennis has a bad rap sometimes for being a club sport, a country club sport. People think, even though we're a public facility, that we're a country club. People always complain that, why isn't it just free to walk in? Well, it does cost to maintain, so we do have to charge some money. But the key is to democratize that sport so that we have more Chuck Gills that play at our free high school courts that the village built on the high school property. Those kinds of partnerships are kind of where things start so that you can broaden the appeal and have more Chuck Gills show up that end up riding their bike to the courts.
So well said.
I would actually agree with that.
We need both Wendy's and Chuck's. All right. And does anyone in the audience have a question for our panel?
I have a question.
How did I know? If I was a betting woman, I would have bet that Adam, is it relevant to this panel? I must ask this. If it's
This is
not,
kind of like that guy that shows up at the council meeting.
yes, this is actually a great.
We'll talk about parking lots. It is relevant.
Okay, please ask your question,
First
Adam
of all,
Ross.
Great panel. You're all visionaries, and I have to confirm Wendy for here.
Thank you.
But my question is, we talked a lot about leadership, and I want to know, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we all come back to this meeting. What would be like the greatest thing you should see tennis? Is it players? Is it courts? Is it coaches? Is it all of the above? What would be your ideal for the future?
Mine is to continue to grow the game. I'm eyeing the field across the street.
Yes.
Because we've run out of courts here, clearly, space. And so I already told the city manager that, and he kind of rolled his eyes. But just never, if you're filling the courts, and you're getting people to play, you got to continue on that. So I would hope in 10 years you come back. Chelsea's still around, we're all still around, and you can just watch it grow. We're hosting more tournaments, we're just putting more people on the courts. So I don't see we're to stop anything we're currently doing. We're just keep trying stuff and just grow. And I think that's what we're here for. Anybody?
Go ahead, send it down that way.
Sure.
There we go. That's right.
I think that's absolutely, I guess maybe from a public perspective, we always want more facilities. Without the facilities, you can't have the participation. So I think it's important. Gardens has a different mindset. They've always been growing. We don't like change in Wellington. We kind of are satisfied with our borders, but we shouldn't be. And I think looking for new places to build facilities so that, because we've kind of hamstrung Chuck on a 16, 17 acre site where he's going to be built out. So the goal would be is that hopefully he's got multiple facilities to manage and he's still working at the village in 10 years and chosen not to retire. I just want to get that commitment.
Chuck now regrets being on this panel.
And here's your new contract.
Yeah, that's a great perspective though, and it's wonderful to hear from cities the idea of expansion, right? And to your point, sometimes we go and we work with cities and we want to remain a small town, but there's so many people in Florida that's really hard to do, to serve with the footprint. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you, Wendy, too, for sharing that.
I'll just say the city of Palm Beach Gardens, just so you know, we are constrained to 50% green space. We can never develop beyond that. So any of the growth that you see here is within that boundary. That does make it difficult. What we're hearing now from residents, and you guys can tell me if these are just 5 loud people or the tennis community in general, is indoor. A lot more requests for indoor facilities. So I'm starting to.
I'm watching Wendy's face, and I can hear her thoughts in my head. So.
And we have not talked about this yet.
We should definitely talk about this, and that's a great topic for future advocacy. If we're looking 10 years down the road.
Let's throw the pebble down the road on that one. But that's what I'm starting to get from residents. So there you go. Sorry, Wendy.
So let's see if we can get one more question, Scott. Well, you got 2 minutes, so quick.
But I just wanted to say, I know something that kept coming up. What are some tools to use? And you guys started selling tools. I feel like there's just more and more. One is the economic impact study. You may have mentioned it, and I might have missed it, and I thought that I did. But can we get access to that?
It's on your table.
It's on.
Yes. Yeah. And we can get you more.
Yeah. The other is more for maybe in Chuck. Chuck, you mentioned something regarding if people don't know that it happened, might as well not have happened. What are some tools you guys use, or what do you find is your best platforms to use to get the word out that, this event just took place?
This calendar invite to this.
I'm sorry?
Calendar invite to the city managers, and city council. Put it on their calendar. Have somebody put it on their calendar.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Invite. Sometimes just personally pick up the phone, shoot a text. Hey,
this one I can text. She tells everything.
And we can help a little later today. I think we're going to talk a little bit about some of the communication practices and how you can get your local media to cover it. So they might not be able to come out, but I guarantee that, a lot of times your local media will, if you're able to communicate with them and you have connections. That's another key partner. Your local media live in your community, right? So invite them out. Give them free access to your courts. It will pay off tenfold.
Marketing for your city. Now, so you're having an event. See if they'll come on top of that.
That's what I was. Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, we've kicked the game up at the tennis center with social media.
And elected officials film PSAs all the time. So sometimes just even doing a simple thing to let people know, on the local level, this is happening, or come out to the courts for whatever. So
I never thought that the National Tennis Month, when we did the Player of the Day, I would have never thought how many likes and shares we'd get if when we took a different tennis player every day for 30 days and featured them. And it's like the old saying, everybody loves to hear their own name, love to see their own face.
I was just trying to pass this to Chuck in time for what he was saying.
It's okay. It's okay. Well, thank you. Please give a big round of applause for our panel. Thank you all so much for joining us today and for all you do. That's all for this episode of the Here to Serve podcast. Be sure to tune in for future episodes and check USTAFlorida.com/here to serve for all upcoming topics and dates.